Good morning, InSpirit community. Thank you for being here today. And I trust you all had a great Thanksgiving? Okay, good. I'm very excited to be giving a talk this morning. Most of you have probably not heard me speak, but I do more than just the announcements. So the title of the talk is The Melody of Vivacity. And looking at that picture of me when I was about 3 months old, I obviously had a very vivacious appetite. But the melody of vivacity, what does that really mean? Well, we know what a melody is. A melody is a sequence of notes that creates an interesting, unique progression. It can touch us deeply, and it's in the silence between the notes that we can go deeper, sort of like life. I want to open by sharing this vivacity, the enlivened spirit, the liveliness of spirit. That's what vivacity is. And I want to share about an individual who had a very interesting life. And when he was born, he had a twin brother who died the day after he was born. He grew up in the music industry as a cantor, and he found a girl he fell in love with. His parents were not too keen on his choices in life. He had Jewish parents, and the girl was from a Russian Orthodox family, and they weren't too keen on his career choices in music. So he did not have the approval of the parents, but he married her anyway. Shortly into the marriage, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor which caused severe personality changes, rage. And in fact, she was institutionalized for 7 years because she was a threat and wanted to harm her husband and other people. So he dealt with that, and he never divorced her. He was committed. And he continued writing music. He wrote from wit, humanity, and some depression that he suffered, becoming an excessive drinker, an alcoholic, and later on, developing Parkinson's disease. Now, he wrote from some other power. He knew this. It's stated in his biography that he drew upon something, God, source, power, whatever, for his inspiration. Well, one afternoon, driving down Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, he saw in a store window, he was at a stoplight, and he saw a reflection. And suddenly, he was flooded with inspiration, with music that he could not control. He pulled over to the side, and his name being Harold, Harold got out his notebook and started writing the music to this song.
When all the world is a hopeless jumble, and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. All the clouds darken up the skyway. There's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops way up of the chimney tops is where you'll find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Is that amazing? One of the greatest songs of all times that we all know. That this man who had the woven fabric, the tapestry of life, the challenges, the successes, the failures, the demons, he used that for that divine urge that was within him. He produced that from something in, around, and through him. So I'm going to be asking you some questions today because throughout this week I want you to really ponder these questions, how they relate to you. Because our teaching is all about growth, all about delving deeper inside of us to reveal more of who we are, to achieve that level of empowerment, of power, of knowing the truth of why we are here. So the first question I want to ask you, based on the story I just told, what is your personal divine urge calling you to do? So just give that some thought, meditate on that this week, because it's about bringing forward that which is going to create that greater experience of life in each of us. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Vivacity is about the liveliness of spirit, enlivened spirit. So in this teaching, we have many spiritual practices to do that can allow us to be that gift, that aliveness, that vibrancy of life. Too often, we get caught in that perpetual rut, doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same results. Right? However, we have a responsibility and choice. That's one thing we talk a lot about in this teaching, is having choice of how we want to change that patterning, how we want to show up in the world. We have a responsibility and choice at any given time. It's very interesting. There was a study done by a physician in Chicago several years ago. And I think he researched 400 men and women who had great accomplishments throughout their life. And he found that the average age for those individuals achieving that greatness was age 50, and many of them in their 70s and 80s. So see, we have the opportunity. We sometimes say, oh, well, I'm too old. No, you know what's old? Our thoughts. Our thoughts are old. Our mind is forever evolving and changing and creating. Michelangelo was made superintending architect of St. Peter's when he was 72. And it's quoted as him saying that at age 92 he was still learning. So we want to get out of that rut of the continual, perpetual weeds, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, the lack of confidence. That's not doing us any good. And we can shift that at any time. Sure, we all may fall into that periodically, and that's okay, but let's not stay there. Let's get ourselves out of that. So we have the opportunity, it's like the gardener who pulls up the weeds that are doing no good so new growth can come forward. So I invite you this week to really look at what your thoughts are telling you, how your thoughts are influencing you. What is it creating for you? You've heard the byline of what religious science or science of mind is about. Change your thinking, change your life. Well, it's true. So we have the opportunity to really put that into practice. And it's not how you do, it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. We can take any situation and look at it one way, and then we can look at it through different eyes and find something powerful, something meaningful, purposeful in what we're doing. Several years ago, well, actually, Sandy and I met when I had a band in LA in the early 70s. And I was working 6 nights a week. That's when they had clubs with live music, and a gig was 6 nights a week. And she was teaching during the day. Well, when we eventually decided to get married, I knew, and I'd known this for years, that I wanted a family. I wanted children. I wanted, to have a home life. So I decided that I didn't want to work 6 nights a week and Sandy worked during the day. So I made a conscious choice after some deliberation and talking about it that since I was the head of the band, I said, you guys, we're going to disperse and go our separate ways. Because what was more important to me at that point, not that I gave up my music totally, but I gave up that piece of it because there was something more important, an urge coming forward in me, something more important that I wanted to create. So I gave that up. I found my way, floundered a little bit, but ended up falling into the financial world and dealing in the mortgage business for many years and was very successful at it. And although it wasn't my passion was to provide for my family, so there was passion in what I was doing for the end result. So it served me well. So my point is, sometimes we all get caught in that cycle of having to do something we're not really thrilled with. But it's important to look at it differently. What is it bringing to us? How can I enter into this with joy? What benefit can I bring to this? How can I help people with this? There are many ways we can approach it. So I think it's very important that we all maybe relook at that in our lives and how that's showing up. Because what happens is, when we do that, we become more joyful. We have a different energy. Inside, we're feeling different. Our outside world will change. Because that energy that is being created within us is spreading out into life. And of course, we get back so much more when we are in that reciprocality of life. So the next question I want you to ponder over is, what is the one challenge you were born to understand? The one challenge you were born to understand. Because we know with clarity comes wisdom, comes resolution, and comes joy. So that's another one I want you to think about this week. As I was referring to a little bit earlier about getting rid of old thoughts, keeping the mind new and fresh, you know, it's always been said that the years we learn the most are the ones when we're young, growing, reading, walking, speaking, understanding. But they say that no, we have so much more to learn as an adult, as an elder. The learning never stops. The learning and growing keeps us young. So I'm going to invite you again to really look at that within you, which is ready to be created in a new way. Look into your heart. What is pulling you? What is calling to you? What are your greatest desires? We've learned somewhere in our history of growing up to put those aside. And that is not serving us or other people. We all have some gift to share. It doesn't have to be a grand gift. It can be small. It can just be being a kind person. That makes a difference. Everything we do from our heart makes a difference. So really tap into yourself. And what is that divine urge saying to you? What is the voice? As I mentioned, the space between the notes, the silence, is when we can really hear the music. Back when Sandy and I had our store in the 90s, I had a vision driving down, I think it was Pacific Coast Highway in Dana Point, and I got this flash of the cover of People magazine with Sandy and myself on there. Now it wasn't a wish or a hope, it was just a flash. Well, in 1996, some of you know this already, we were on the cover of People magazine and our story inside. You can never dream, you can never vision too big. It's amazing what will come to you. We all have to be that open vehicle for God's good. I so believe in this teaching. Sandy and I got into this teaching in 1981 in the Redondo Beach Church of Religious Science with Dr. Frank Richelieu, who was amazing. It was a huge church at the time. I think they had 4,000 members. And I remember the first day we walked in, and every day after that we walked in, he would start off and have the audience repeat after him. I want you to do the same. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alert. I'm alert. And I'm enthusiastic. And it raises a vibration in each of us. And I was so touched. And then at the end of the service, we held hands, which I felt uncomfortable with, and we sang the peace song. But I soon got over that. Stepping into that church, hearing the message, I thought, wow, this is how I've always believed. I never knew there was anything formal that really professed this. So it was quite an awakening to find out, wow, my beliefs, all these people are thinking the same way. So that's why I believe in this teaching. Because no matter what the challenges are, no matter what the successes are, this can put a whole different perspective on how you look at something, how you feel about it, how you can change your mind. I think it was June Crockett last Sunday who brought up, well, there are things I can't change, so I can be flexible. I thought that was beautiful. That's what it's about. We have to readjust ourselves on some things. We don't have control of a lot of the circumstances out there. We have control of how we see them, how we experience them. So this vivacity that's within all of us is yearning to be expressed in all we do. It makes a difference with those we come in contact with. It makes a difference with those we work with. It makes a difference with our consciousness. Never forget that we have the ability to create whatever it is we desire. I was very fortunate to grow up in a family that didn't have any beliefs. They pushed on me. They allowed me to develop my own beliefs. They fostered me in my music, my creativity, never doubting that I couldn't do anything I wanted. My mother always said, this is the one thing, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. That's right out of Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind. And that stuck with me. I can do anything if I put my mind to it. So I have another question I want to ask you. What are the most natural abilities you have always displayed? The natural abilities you have always displayed. Because in that, that's something in you that makes you unique and that you can express, that you can use to make a difference in the world, in your life. I knew from a young age I wanted to do something on a stage. I didn't know how that looked, but I was so involved with music, with acting, with anything having to do with the arts. That was my calling, and it was never pushed on me. It was just what I came into this lifetime with, as we all come into this lifetime with something. So that's what's yearning to come forward in me. That's what's yearning to be expressed, is each of you have something to be expressed. So don't stop expressing. And as Marguerite so beautifully talked about our prayer wall, this is an opportunity which we're going to get up here in a minute for prayer wall. An opportunity to trust and have faith in that spoken word, that knowing of our practitioners and ministers, in the words they speak, knowing that they have been trained for many years to have that consciousness in prayer. To know the truth when we can't know it for ourselves. That's why we have practitioners. For somebody else to know the truth for us. Because we're sometimes caught up in the midst of it. We can't see clearly. So if you're coming up to the prayer wall, our practitioners will do what we call the third step of our 5-step affirmative prayer. We already know that there is this power and presence in the universe. And we know our oneness with that. And they will know the truth of the situation. Whether you want to be empowered with love, with community, with career, with abundance, whatever it is, what it is that's going to support you in that empowerment in life. And the practitioners will give a very quick being the operative word, response, just knowing the truth for that individual. So I'm going to pose one last question, and I love this one, that says, if you could get the whole world's attention for 30 minutes, what would you talk about? I bet we have a lot to say on that. 30 minutes probably isn't enough. But think about that this week. And I want to thank you for being here today, the opening of the holiday season, and what a community this is. I feel your love and your commitment, and I know it's a wonderful life for each of you. So thank you for today, and we'll get the practitioners and ministers up here for the prayer wall. And let's just close it up by saying, and so it is.